Ever wonder how a really great website is put together? It's not just a bunch of text and pictures thrown onto a page. Nope, there's actually a hidden blueprint, a structure that holds the whole thing together. Today, we're going to dive into how HTML5, which is the modern language of the web, gives us way smarter tools to build the sites we use every single day. And it all kicks off with one really simple but powerful idea.
Okay, to really get a handle on this, I want you to stick with this one analogy. Just think, how is a website like a house? I mean, they both need a solid foundation, right? And they have different rooms for different things, and of course, a way to get around. This whole idea of architecture, that's the absolute key to understanding how modern web pages are built. So before we had these sophisticated blueprints, what did building a website even look like? Just imagine trying to build a house, but you only had one type of material for everything. A plain, generic brick. For the walls, the floor, the roof, everything. Well, in the world of web design, that brick is called the div tag. See, in HTML, tags usually come in pairs. You have an opening tag, like div, and then a closing tag with a slash, like div close, and you put your content in the middle. The div is basically a generic box. You can put stuff in it, sure, but here's the catch. The tag itself doesn't tell you anything about what's inside. Is it the main headline, the navigation, the footer? It has no semantic meaning, which is just a fancy way of saying the word div doesn't describe its purpose. It's just a box.
So you can imagine a whole website built with these identical, unlabeled bricks. I mean, it might stand up, but it would be so confusing for anyone trying to figure out what's what. That's kind of what the web was like for a while. It worked, but man, it was a mess. So naturally, people came up with a much, much smarter way to build.
And that brings us to the HTML5 structural framework. Instead of that one generic brick, we now have a whole toolkit of specialized, clearly labeled parts. This is our blueprint. It tells us, and more importantly the browser, exactly what each part of the house is for, right from the get-go. First up, we've got the header tag. Pretty straightforward, right? This is the very top part of your website house, the entryway or the roof. It's where you'd probably put your site's logo, the main title, or your navigation menu. It's a clear signal that says, hey, this is the top, the introduction to this whole thing. And of course, every good house needs a solid foundation. On a website, that's the footer tag. It sits right at the bottom of the page, and it's where you'll usually find things like copyright info, contact details, or extra links. It clearly marks the end of the page. All right, now for the main living space. That's the article tag. This is like a primary room in our house. It's meant for a complete, self-contained piece of content, like a whole blog post, a news story, or a forum comment. The key here is you could literally lift this room out and put it somewhere else, and it would still make perfect sense all by itself. But what if that main room, our article, is, really big? You might want to break it up. And that's exactly what the section tag is for. It's like putting up a little partition to create a reading nook or a dining area inside one big living room. So you could have a section for the introduction, another for the main story, and a third for the conclusion, all organized neatly inside that one article. Okay, so we've built the main structure of our house. We've got a roof, a foundation, and some rooms. Now it's time to actually furnish those rooms and make them useful.
How do you get from one room to another? Well, you use hallways and staircases. On a website, our hallway is the nav tag. It specifically groups together all of the main navigational links. Home, about us, contact. It makes it super clear how you're supposed to get around the site.
Now, sometimes you have extra info that's related to the main topic, but it's not really part of the main flow. That's where the aside tag is perfect. It's great for sidebars, little pull quotes, or maybe an ad. I love this analogy. It's like a little did you know sticky note on the wall of the room. It's relevant, but it's not the main piece of furniture. What about the decorations on the wall? Well, the figure tag is what you'd use to wrap around an image, a chart, or maybe a diagram. It's like putting a nice frame around a picture. It tells the browser, hey, this whole thing, the image and its caption, is one single complete unit. And what good is a framed picture without a little plaque underneath telling you what it is? That's the caption tag. It goes right inside the figure tag and gives you a caption for that image or chart. It's directly connected, providing that all-important context. So we've got all these amazing, specialized building materials now, but why? Why does this actually matter? What makes this smart house so much better than the old one made of just plain bricks? Let's put it all together. This visual really says it all. Look on the left. That's the old way. Just a sea of generic div tags. You have no idea what anything is for. It's a total mystery. But then look on the right, at the smart way. You see header, article, section, footer. You don't even need to see the content inside to get a sense of the page's layout. The structure itself tells the story. Okay, let's look at a quick real-world example. Say we're building a web page for a news report. The entire story would be wrapped in an article tag. That's our main room. The headline, that gets its own header at the top of the article. We could use a section to separate the main body of the story from, say, a related subtopic. And then at the very bottom, the author's name and the date go neatly into the footer, our foundation. See? Every single piece has a specific logical job. That is the power of building with a clear blueprint.
So what's the big takeaway here? At the end of the day, HTML5 gives us specific tools for specific jobs. Kind of like a carpenter has way more than just a hammer. These tags, like article and header, create a clear structure that isn't just for us humans to read. Search engines like Google can understand your content better, screen readers for visually impaired users can navigate the page logically, and other developers can jump into your code and know what's going on instantly.
And that kind of leaves us with one final, bigger idea to think about. We've seen how choosing more specific words, our HTML tags, creates smarter, more meaningful websites. It really makes you think, if code is a language, a way to communicate not just with computers, but with other people, what else could we say? What other amazing things could we build just by choosing our words a little more carefully?